And ladies and gentlemen, a statement from Kyril of the Two Schmoes Show.
Now, this comes from the president of the Two Schmoes, straight from the top. Inquiries regarding other channels' podcasts. We have received many inquiries regarding other channels' podcasts released in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Schmoes' intellectual property or assets from that show. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on the intellectual property rights related to the two Schmoes. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Schmo and its world, and work to bring the world together through Schmoes in the future. And then everybody clapped.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Schmoes Show. I'm your host, the infamous Orion, and I'm a pal.
I'm Pyro, and I'm very confused.
Why are you confused?
Just at everything.
I mean,
Nothing makes sense anymore. I mean, it hasn't for a
humanity.
while, but it
Yeah.
feels like this last week has been especially nonsensical.
2024 is off to a start, you know?
Yeah, yeah, we haven't made it through January, and we are in constitutional crisis mode. Primaries haven't even happened yet.
That's the fucked up part, isn't it? All we've
Yeah,
got is like Iowa.
yeah. I think Connecticut had something as well, but like, who fucking cares about Connecticut?
One of the lesser states, if you ask me.
Yeah, bottom 15 for
Bottom
real.
50. You know, I'll put Connecticut above Virginia, but like nowhere near like Indiana.
Yeah. I will say though, my opinions of Indiana have been going down lately.
Mm.
They've still got that Gary problem that they haven't been able to fix. It's been like 60 years. Come on, guys.
You know, that's actually a good point. I think Indiana as a state loses its reputation just because of how Gary works.
Mm.
Yeah. How's your week been, Cairo, besides all confusing in politics?
In chiral world, it's been fine. Busy at work, you know how it is. Nothing new there, but it's been fine.
I'm very
Made
jealous.
sloppy joes this week, so I've been riding on that.
Very jealous.
How's world over there?
One of my favorite content creators got ousted as a creep, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So all my fucking feeds is nothing but like just the same drama repeated 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking love it. It's a echo chamber of hell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm like 3 days behind the news because the algorithms decided I needed to be very aware of what's going on.
Of course. I am not one that tries with the outset, to be particularly conspiratorially minded, right? But the human brain works as the human brain does. And sometimes it can be very difficult to rationalize away certain apparent connections, you know? And boy, howdy, has social media, just in general, really fucking sucked lately.
Dude, like I know what you're leading up to,
Yeah.
but like
It's kind of everything, though, you know?
to me,
Like, we have
yeah.
a couple of topics that we're going to be going over in more depth today, but one that I didn't mention was that I saw a poll this week that was not like, especially expansive, right? It
Mhm.
was of a relatively small-ish sample size, but I think it was still from Pew. So, it's a reputable company that's putting their name behind it. And it was simply asking this group of people that they presented this to, do you believe the Holocaust happened?
What?
Do you believe the Holocaust was exaggerated? And then it broke it down by age groups. And the 18 to 29 bracket because everything after that was pretty much what you'd expect it to be, where it's like, yeah, like single digit percents in either column, varying up and down. But the 18 to 29 column for do you believe the Holocaust happened, with the answer being no, was like 28%.
What?
And, or sorry, it was like 20%. And do you believe it was exaggerated was like 28%,
What?
which is absolutely absurd to even consider the fact that like 3 out of 10 people, roughly, in our age group ish, if you asked them, was the Holocaust exaggerated or faked, would tell you yes.
That's really fucking scary.
It is. It's incredibly terrifying. And one factor of that is, of course, obviously, education is like the first problem with that.
Yeah.
The people who have come to those opinions are clearly being failed at some level by the systems around them that allowed that to persist. But on the other hand, those opinions don't come about just by not being educated on something, right? You don't get to the point of a genocide didn't happen by that genocide not being talked about in school, right? If you ask them about the Armenians, the Rohingya genocide, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
On and on and on, I guarantee you they wouldn't have a fucking opinion on it because they don't know about it. Because why would they, right? And it feels very much like the increasingly, I don't know, it's hard to find the words, right? I always want to use the right words, and sometimes the right words aren't there.
No.
Social media
Yeah.
has have had an outsized influence on those sorts of opinions, it seems, in very detrimental ways.
I think it's scary that we live in a world where some people believe social media, the big massive publisher that it is, gives an air of
Yeah.
legitimacy to anything that gets put on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really wish people would wake up and realize it's just a bathroom stall wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's ending up in this incredible amounts of radicalization
Yeah.
where you have people who are like on the other side without ambiguity overtly giving their support to terrorist organizations because they dislike the government that that terrorist organization is committing terror against.
I
I
love
don't
that you say that
know.
so
I'm trying
vaguely.
very specifically not to use names
I know because
because
like
it's not us, the names don't fucking matter.
I agree with
It's
you
people
entirely.
getting turned into extremist beliefs through misinformation.
People just need to touch grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I would say there's even a worse problem with social media right
Mm,
now with framing, where they'll
yeah.
take something that exists and then they'll put it in a different light and say this is what really happened, and just because they have something that's like like very credible, they're
Mm-hmm.
just trying to frame it in such a way that it helps their beliefs more at the end of the
Yeah.
day than what is actually in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a messed up time.
It is a very messed up time. And I really thought we were just going to make fun of those AI images of Taylor Swift that went out and all regulation on AI just started popping up immediately. No, Cairo, we went to Holocaust denial right away.
Mm-hmm.
Good show.
That's the schmoes guarantee.
That's the. You feeling too good about yourself today?
You think the world might be a good place? No, no, no. Let's get this sorted right back how it is. Yeah, and we're gonna keep on trucking.
That's the only option you have.
Let's start with the lightest article that we have that we're going to be talking about today. Um, our former president raping a woman and gaining political points because of it.
I hate you. I hate you that you put it in that frame and it's right.
Yeah, yeah. That's where my state of mind has been this week. Where it's just like, yeah, things in my straight white world, it's not too bad. I'm going along. But holy shit, if I even just like peek around the corner, is things going south fast?
It is a weird time to be a straight white guy
Yeah.
because like literally you get a little bit of the blinders when the algorithm identifies you as one,
Hmm.
but as soon as like you step out of those blinders, you're like seeing fire everywhere.
Yeah. I am very privileged that I can get on Twitter and just look at silly pictures people have made and nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of people can't do that.
No, they cannot.
And it's not like a choice thing. You just don't have a you don't get the decision of whether or not you want to engage with people who wish you were dead.
I mean, the best you get is the block button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, it's a temporary measure. So let's talk about the Trump or sorry, E. Jean Carroll v. Trump 2 lawsuit boogaloo because backing up to spring of last year, 2023, we got the verdict for the original defamation lawsuit filed against Donald Trump
Mm-hmm.
by Ishan Carroll, in which Carroll uh, was suing over. Where is it? Let me get the because I have like with a lot of these cases, right? Because there's so fucking many of them. I have like broad strokes, like yeah, what happened here? Yeah, I kind of know what happened, but it's good to get the specifics every once in a while. Like what exactly was the defamation claim? But I mean, it was also so long ago that nobody is in question that the defamation happened at this point. Um,
For
June 21st, 2019, Ejon Carroll published an article in the New York Magazine which stated that Donald Trump had sexually assaulted her in late 1995 or early 1996 in the Bergdorf Goodman department store in New York City. Contrary to Trump's later assertion that she was a then almost 60-year-old woman, she is less than 3 years Trump's senior, being 52 at the time, and he 49. Uh, Carol said that on her way out of the store, she ran into Trump and he asked her for help buying a gift for a woman after she suggested a handbag or a hat. The two reportedly moved on to the lingerie section and joked about the other trying some on. Carol said she ended up in a dressing room together, the door of which was shut, and Trump forcefully kissed her, pulled down her tights, and then, as the court has now confirmed, raped her before she was able to escape. She stated the alleged incident lasted less than 3 minutes, during which time there was no sales attendant present in the apartment.
I need to take a
Uh,
shower after hearing that.
yeah, it's incredibly gross. Um, in an
Fuck.
official government statement, Trump denied that he had ever met Carroll, accused her of trying to sell books, implied she had a political agenda, compared the accusation to one against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and said that Bergdorf Goodman had confirmed they had no surveillance footage of the alleged incident.
Oh my
Uh,
god, someone please think of the millionaire former president.
yeah. Um, a few weeks following the New York Magazine article's publication, Carroll was recommended by lawyer George Conway to file a defamation lawsuit and helped her in order to find a lawyer to support that. Carroll wrote then an op-ed for the Washington Post encouraging readers, or sorry, Conway wrote an op-ed encouraging readers to believe Carroll's story. Uh, that is the crux of what the defamation suit is based on. That Carroll claims this thing happened. Trump says this thing did not happen, and that as a result of Trump's stating that that thing did not happen, she received greater harassment and damages, right? That's what
Yeah.
this is ultimately based on. Her reputation, her financial well-being, her emotional well-being was damaged because of Trump's false statements. The case initially between November of 2019 March of 2023 proved that Carroll was correct. Trump did lie and awarded her about $5 million in damages as a result of it. Trump then proceeded to further defame her basically immediately after the ruling, which resulted in the second iteration of the Carroll v. Trump saga, which again, Trump was found to have, defamed her, caused damages, and was instructed to pay 83.3 million to Carroll for those damages, as well as punitive charges after his failure to abide by the prior decision. In the immediate aftermath, of course, Trump has said that he is going to be appealing, though it is important to note that a condition required for appeal is that the appealing party, in this case Trump, is required to basically put up a deposit of the damages. And this can be either from his own funds
Mm-hmm.
or through, like bondsmen, right?
Yeah,
But it is meant to be a means of deterring fraudulent appeals, to needlessly draw out these cases, and should the appeal be, found to not be valid, streamline the damages being given to the damaged party.
I like that. Yes, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
both good things. And yeah, that's kind of where we are now. 83.3 million in addition to the $5 million verdict issued prior, and we will have to see where it goes at this point, whether an appeal is officially pursued, whether the appeal has any grounds. It sure doesn't seem like it, given that they've gone through two whole jury trials at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But um, it's also worth noting that Trump and his lawyers, in classic fashion, uh, did not present themselves well in this case.
No.
The jury had their verdict in less than 3 hours. And while it's not known, of course, it is believed that that verdict came so quickly in large part because of Trump and his lawyers' pretty overt incompetence in a legal capacity, as well as Trump's demeanor during the trial being one of very clear very clearly lacking of remorse.
You mean the man who. I'm sorry, there's like a three-step process here, but only
Yeah,
two
yeah,
cases.
yeah, yeah.
He did a very bad thing,
Yeah,
defamed her about being called out on said bad thing, and then
yeah,
defamed her again for losing the case about the bad thing being defamed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then during closing arguments, walked out halfway through.
What a baby.
Yeah,
Why? I just want to know, why do people turn a blind eye to this?
yeah. And that's the kind of thing that sort of ties it into the theme of today, right? Is that this should be the type of verdict that is damaging beyond measure to an individual's character, to their standing in the public eye, and at worst, amongst the fervents among below Trump, this has had no impact. And at best for them, it seems like at times this has even pulled more people to their side somehow. Impossibly, in a way that I genuinely don't have the capacity to understand how a man being accused and then found to have not just been accused but convicted of such heinous acts can make them more popular.
It makes certain people feel less alone in the world.
Yeah.
God.
It's a deeply messed up world that we live in.
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it just breaks my heart a little bit.
Truly.
Yeah.
It very effectively erodes confidence in our capacity to build a nation that, actually is one for the people, right? To think that the problems that our country is facing are desirable outcomes is completely mind boggling.
Ah, God.
So, yeah.
Way to come in swinging today, because like
Yeah, yeah.
I won't spoil the segment later, but beforehand we were just having a fun discussion about shitting on something. But now Mr. Chiral here is just like guns toting. Let's remember all the
Full
systematic
steam
injustices.
ahead.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I guess we can turn this into like a little bit of, like what you said about the privilege of like social media at this point.
Yeah.
We're like two straight white guys. We don't follow. Well, we probably do, just because I know
Right.
who we are. But like most straight white people don't have like a
No,
inherent
they don't.
bias to go to people who have these issues
Mm-hmm.
constantly, and like we make these little echo chambers, white people, where we get to like sit around and enjoy our fun times and like get to have a nice relief off social media instead of the damning hellscape that it is.
Yep. Yep.
Not that there's anything wrong with enjoying that, but it's also like you gotta understand like what you got there.
Mm-hmm. Self-reflection is important.
Oh, fuck.
So let's go. I feel like because I think that's the gist for that. There's not much more to be said there.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about Pal World. That was obviously what we were parodying there at the start of the show was Nintendo's statement that was released regarding other companies' games that I found very funny this week, both in the capacity of how extremely non-specific yet very specific the statement is, and also how it's like Nintendo just being like, "Come on, guys, we know it exists.
Please stop
We
flooding our
don't think they've
inbox.
stolen anything yet, but we know it exists. We are paying attention. Please stop emailing us."
I don't
Yeah.
mean this as an insult, but I'm saying like some people just had too much of a hyper fixation on Pal World getting like retributed.
Yeah. It, I don't know. It is a massively damning indictment of the state of gaming that, you know, Pal World is the cream of the fucking crop. When there are like I don't think it's wrong to say so many objectively better games out there.
You mean games with a
Not
consistent
not
art style?
Pokemon,
Yeah.
but like, you know, just games in general that you can go and pick up and play and have a good time with. That, but Power World is where we're gonna draw the fucking line.
Yes.
It's very confusing. I don't understand it. I really don't. And I wonder, how much of it does tie back to social media. We talked about this part of it a bit before the show, where apparently I learned this week, and I'm surprised that it had not been more widely publicized in ahead of this. It feels like the kind of thing where if you are a person in a capacity where your actions could be construed as endorsement, you would want to be on the front leading edge of any potential, criticisms to the contrary. And apparently, Pal World just gave out free game codes to a substantial number of large game streamers. And a non-zero number of them were playing it in the like early access period, because the whole fucking game's in early access because that's the state of gaming in general right now.
Hey, you can't be criticized as long as you're in early access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like it really feels like that is true. Like that is the prevailing opinion of gamers,
TM.
and I'm probably going to say gamers as like a class quite a few times and talking about this because I don't think there's a better way to describe it.
We
Like
at the
what
Two
what
Schmo
other
Show do not condone any Joker faces in the audience.
But I mean seriously, because I legitimately have been trying to think about that particular aspect of it, right? Like you can be like, gamers say, and the top comment is always going to be not all gamers. But like, when you consider it from the perspective, right? Describing gamers as like the class that is people who buy video games, right?
Yes, that's good. That's a good nomenclature.
It is incredibly depressing to see what people spend their money on.
I think
That
that's
it's,
anybody, to be honest. But go on.
mobile schlock and asset rips slash flips slash, I don't know what you want to call it, rip offs. Like, even if you make your own assets, if you take all your ideas from other stuff, like what's I guess rip off is the a term to describe that. I don't know. It's very odd, right? Because that was something that we would see a lot in like the 90s, early 2000s, and it kind of fell off because games are expensive to make now. You can't just do it with like a sweatshop crew. And to see the same thing come back and just make so much money is very odd.
I think this is a great example of kind of like the internet industry, but we'll focus on gaming here. That
Mm-hmm.
it's so bloated
Mm-hmm.
and that it doesn't take much to start a business nowadays. And in fact, if you're very good at marketing and business in general, you could probably make yourself look bigger than you actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll kind of bring up another news story here, but like the Microsoft layoffs with
Yes.
Blizzard Activision, that's a AAA studio laying people off.
Mm-hmm.
And Pal World is not created by a AAA studio. They are, by the purest definition in my eyes, an independent studio. However, they are clearly trying to not do this for the art of it as much as they are just in it for the reward of it all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you have this real severe bloat. I feel like a lot of industries are in right now where the AAA stuff is so focused on the profits, they're laying off people. And even now, like the independent studios, which by all accounts could have much more artistic freedom,
Mm-hmm.
who are, well, being ran by just these greedy little munchkins, I guess I'll say it, where they're
Mm-hmm.
not so much doing anything for the art of it as much as they are just checking off boxes that would be a marketable idea.
Right.
And that seems to be like the two prevailing schools of thought at the moment. Now there is like your Nintendo, your independent gaming studios that do it for the art, but it's just like real severe industry bloat. I feel is like the motivation behind a lot of this stuff we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
nowadays.
Yeah, that was something that I did want to look up in particular with the Activision Blizzard layoffs
Yeah,
that I had somebody who is familiar with people in that industry confirm just in chatting with them about it, but didn't like find actual news articles to confirm it. But it's pretty well known at this point that in technology, right,
yeah,
in general, in the wake of COVID, a lot of companies got particularly bloated
hmm
with what's the word, redundant positions being created as they tried to, struggle with keeping their workflows consistent through very uncertain times.
yeah.
And we're now coming off on the tail of that, and we're seeing both that bloat needing to get trimmed back in combination with a pretty sharp downturn in the expected profitability of entertainment sectors in general. And I was wondering if the same was true of the gaming spaces, because it's pretty easy to assume that that is the case.
Yeah,
And that does seem to be the case that, video games companies also became somewhat bloated as they had un like historically atypical sales numbers, profit records, right? And coming off of that, both of those factors seem to apply from everything that I've been able to find.
that makes a lot of sense to be honest.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's almost like the economy got like really screech halted for some
Hmm.
reason, and that we're
Well, and
yeah, go on.
I was gonna say there's also the factor that by typical metrics, right?
Yeah,
That while maybe not applicable to the individual on an economic health perspective, are applicable when you're talking about companies
hmm
and layoffs. The United States has done better to manage those sorts of factors, but other places have really struggled.
I could see
And
that.
I think that's probably a large part of it, where you know there's some insulation, some isolation, right, from those factors based on the actions that the American government have taken. But once you start to look outside of that, right, because the U.S. is overrepresented, but relatively less than a majority of entertainment sales, right?
Yeah,
And even if the US does stay perfectly strong, and it won't, but even if it did, you have the other, 75% of the world that is still struggling and is going to be, it seems, for some time.
I like how this started as like a Pal World discussion, opening up to a
Yeah.
larger.
Yeah.
How did we get here of economics?
Yeah.
What's your favorite pal from Pal World, Kyril?
I like the one that looks exactly like the Pokemon.
So, for those of you who do not know, Pal World is a Pokemon ripoff. I guess no, I'll be nice. I will give it the benefit of the doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pal World is a monster collecting game
Mm-hmm.
where one captures monsters by beating them up,
Yeah.
then gives them guns so they can beat up and shoot at other monsters,
Yep.
and then induces slave labor in like industrial studios.
Yep. It's not a Pokemon ripoff. It's
Nah,
an
dude.
Arc ripoff.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's so many factors of it that I don't understand the appeal to. And I think part of that is a genre thing, right?
hmm
Where, you have games like Ark that have found their player niches, but have not ever gone to the levels that Palworld has. Ark's all-time peak is only 250,000 people, where Palworld is currently sitting at daily averages nearing 2 million. I
I have
don't
a
get it.
theory. I have a theory. I have a theory.
Okay,
Yeah.
please.
Pal World's targeted demographic
Yeah,
are teenage boys.
absolutely.
Kids who grew out of Pokemon and they see a gun and they think,
Yep.
oh shit, it's Fortnite, but Pokemon.
Yeah,
Because quite
because it does.
Frankly,
It's got those Fortnite chests.
does it?
Have you seen the Donkey video?
No, I have
I
not.
recommend the I recommend Donkey's video as like a very high level look at all of the visual design that this game uses kind of thing. It's obviously not going to be representative of the gameplay because Donkey is exaggerating it for comedy,
Yeah.
and that's what he's good at. But in terms of visual design, you can very clearly see exactly where every single asset was based on, even if it is technically handmade or original or whatever. They're not being subtle about where they're taking their design space from.
That's actually something I want to bring up too, because like a big thing
Yeah.
I've seen people doing defending this game is
Yeah.
like we're a small independent studio that did this on the budget of $10,000.
Yeah.
Like one, kudos, that is
Which
kind of impressive. Two,
I do not believe it.
you do not get to brag about it when you pull out something this derivative.
Let me see if I can find something here real quick because I could be mistaken, or maybe I heard a little bit of that good old social media misinformation.
Ooh.
Because Pal World is on Game Pass,
hmm
which means that, from what I understand, a portion of the fundamental idea, right, of a game ending up on Microsoft's Game Pass is that Microsoft pays that developer a lump sum upfront to be on that platform. And in exchange, the developer then either doesn't get per download payments for that game being on the platform, or uh, is extremely reduced, right?
Mm-hmm.
So while the Power developers maybe had this tiny budget, they got a pretty big fucking chunk from Microsoft to put the game on their store or on their, their service.
That's hilarious.
And I don't know what the exact figures of that works out to be, but my understanding is that it is generally, when it's at this kind of a scale, in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars kind of thing, when you're talking about an indie game like this.
That's the thing too, is I look at it and it doesn't look like a under $10,000 game. Mainly, like, it looks rushed.
Yes.
Yes, there's a lack of cohesion from this game. We've been
Yep.
making fun of an image of like these little sheep with like little turret guns on sandbags, and we're making fun of like how this image invokes that lack of cohesion.
I would put it this way,
Yeah.
right? When it comes from random Twitter and Reddit users, claims of, plagiarism, right, tend to be dismissed. If it was some like H Bomber guy putting out a 2 hour video breaking down how literally every single aspect of Pal World's visual design, individual assets, and marketing has been basically one for one ripped from another game or another studio, I don't think there would be nearly as much of this pushback on how that is the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like their logo is just Xenoblade
Is it?
or Monster Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah. It's framed like, let me see if I can find an example, because it's the kind of thing where if like you glance at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's a insert JRPG here thing.
Okay. I do see what you mean. I was freaking out because like I thought I would notice a Xenoblade thing more, but I do agree it comes off more as Monster Hunter.
Yeah. It looks so much like the Monster Hunter, like very typical logo of here's this central landmark and all of our critters,
Yeah.
with our slightly distressed logo in the front of them all. Oh.
I don't know either. But
And then it comes to the perennial question, right? And this is the thing that kind of frustrates me, because it comes back to a lot of the most brain dead takes that have been circling around, in particular lately, as people talk about what it means for something to be a product of plagiarism or copyright theft, right? In particular, in the wake of things like, the latest H Bomber Guy video, where he pointed out a number of very large YouTubers with very large followings that did blatantly steal and plagiarize other people's works into their videos, or in the conversations about AI and what that means for copyright and artist protections. And we get some very nice brain dead takes about how, stuff like artists don't matter and their opinions don't matter. And one of my favorites being that, well, even if this thing is bad, I'm having fun with it, so I don't care. And it all kind of ties back into the same, where that opinion feels like it has gotten to be much more pervasive. The idea that if I, as an individual, are having fun with a thing, nothing else matters. And it excuses any wrongdoing that resulted in its creation.
I mean, like, I can understand with you wanting to like enjoy something you're having fun with, despite it kind of being a piece of shit. A broken clock is like
Mm-hmm.
wrong. I'm right twice a day. That kind of logic.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, why do you knowingly put yourself in that position? And it comes off as quite
Yep.
ignorant in that position when you say like nothing else matters because of that fun. You can just say like I acknowledge it while having my fun. I don't get it.
Yeah.
People are dumb.
I
People
don't.
are
I
always
don't either.
yeah. People are trying to
It,
protect themselves. I don't like
yeah.
it.
It's pretty extreme, like illiteracy, right?
Yeah. It's a lack of
Where
self
people
awareness.
aren't able. Yeah, yeah. It all ties in. And it probably ties in, like you're saying, about how, what's the target audience?
Yeah.
Probably people who are like, 16 to 20 that think Pokemon with guns is the funniest shit ever. And oh my God, you get to make them slaves and you get to eat them? Ha ha ha. What a good joke. No one's made that before.
Yeah.
Like, it's immaturity in a very literal sense.
And they profit off that.
They do.
I think
Very
the
much so.
internet is such a dangerous place for immature people.
Mm-hmm.
Like internet communities by far. Because there is always someone hunting you.
Yep.
Did you see do you know of the South Park special that just came out, Not for Children?
No, I did. I believe I've heard of it, but I don't know its contents.
It's actually pretty fucking good. The
Mm.
commentary of like when you're on the internet, someone is always trying to hunt you, and I don't know. I think everybody should give it a try once. It's a pretty solid understanding of internet literacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that we've said so much about like the situation, like revolving
Mm-hmm.
around Power World, but we haven't discussed anything about its actual
Yeah.
content.
I am trying to do that intentionally because the game is not deserving of the time of day. It
Fair
is
enough.
very low effort, and I feel like it's the kind of thing where once you start to talk about the specifics of it, it very easily allows a conversation that is much more, or should much more be about uh, industry trends and cultural literacy, right? Gets sidetracked in the minutia of whether or not this specific character's model was actually stolen or not, right?
I mean, framing this from a creative like outlook,
Yeah,
I always get a little pissed that you have like these people who have this great opportunity to make something
yeah,
and they choose to do it the most lazy and unthought provoking method possible just
yeah,
because they think they're going to get a better reward out of it.
yeah. And then they are rewarded.
Yeah, that's it's
That's
frustrating
what
for me.
pisses me off is
Yeah,
that they are rewarded at the end of it.
yeah. As someone who does creative shit, it's an insult. I feel to like everybody who would love the opportunity to make something like Pow World, but like they would actually
Like,
give a damn.
yeah,
Yeah. And I don't mean like Pow World 1 to 1,
like
but like make a game.
even just Pal World, literal Pal World, with a cohesive art style. That's the bar,
Yeah.
and they can't clear that. That's what frustrates me the most. Like, all right, you want Pal
Honestly,
World? You want to make this like not quite parody thing because you think it's edgy or funny or it'll sell copies? Sure. Why the art style that you picked
if
or the
Game
lack
Freak
thereof?
put out a Pokemon game with this exact art style, there would be
Mm-hmm.
no end to the hell that would be raised.
No.
No.
Imagine, right?
Yeah.
They make a Pokemon game and they just put the Sheikah Slate in it as an item. Not and then call it the Sheikah Slate, it's its own thing, but it's the exact same model.
The Pokepad.
The amount of shit that Nintendo and the Pokemon Company would get for that would be endless. And that is the entire game.
Yeah.
Is, we're going to cherry pick all of these elements from other games that are already popular, you know. Like, I would be very curious. I not even be curious, right? Like morbidly fascinated to see, like, I guess maybe it would just be too long. Like, what is this a copy of? What is this a copy of? Right? Because there's so much.
I feel like because like there is something about like artistry of taking elements that pre-exist and putting them together.
Hmm.
But the difference between that and this is that there's actually a sense of cohesion when someone does it with a pure intent, where
Yeah.
everything in this just feels like copy paste. Not
Yeah.
even that might be a little too strong because they're not
No,
literally copy
they're
pasting.
tracing.
Yeah,
You know, and when it's, someone who's learning and trying to improve and get better at something,
yeah,
tracing someone else's art to, as like a mechanical thing, right?
yeah.
To build muscle memory is fine. But once you start to sell it as a product for 30 fucking dollars, but it's early access, so That's when I have problems with it.
I agree.
The fucking lichen rock. That is just still so absurd to me.
It feels like they got like a whole bunch of artists who do Pokemon fan work, and they like
Hmm.
commissioned them to make the designs for Pokemon. And the artists, not knowing what they were going to be used for, just kind of went with the generic Pokemon art style for the fan mons.
I don't know. I mean, it's the kind of thing, right, where that is the easy way to do it, right?
Yeah,
You start with something that someone else made, and you change a thing here, you change a thing there, and oh, it's your own thing now. But I don't like it,
I don't like it either.
and that's regardless of the elements that the game includes, right? If we do want to talk about like in terms of mechanics, there's a lot of stuff in here that I find extremely unnecessary, and to have them as selling points is bordering on concerning to me, you know?
How so?
Like very reminiscent for me of like seeing the kid playing with a dead cat
Ah,
and then rewarding them for that by making the dead cat poking simulator.
it does come off that way. I agree with you. It's like
Yeah.
reminds me of those Spider-Man Elsa videos that were like going
Yeah.
around YouTube for a while, where they just kind of play to like the just wrong things in your psyche, and just
Hmm.
let you play with them just enough that it's like kind of scary that you're like
Yeah.
finding interest in this.
I don't know. That's the thing for me though, is that I have zero interest in that, and it concerns me that there seems to be a fairly substantial number of people who are, whose selling point for getting this game is that not that you get to have, your what do they call it? Open world survival and crafting Pokemon, but that you get to have your Pokemon slaves and that you
Mm.
can kill them.
Yeah,
That was where they're like, this is for me.
the power
I don't
fantasy
like
of it
that.
all. Yeah. Are we saying if you play Pal World, you might be a sociopath?
No.
No.
But there sure seems to be a lot of sociopaths playing Pal World.
Or as I like to call them, teenage boys. Ba-da-bum, ba-da, ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum. That was good. Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Yo.
God, I hate that Wikipedia, and maybe Wikipedia didn't come up with this. Wikipedia has such a good name for this stupid Texas thing.
Oh, the standpoint at Eagles Point?
The
Standoff?
standoff at Eagle Pass.
That's it. That's like the shit from
That's
a
too
cowboy
cool.
movie. Yeah.
That's too cool for how dumb this is. It sounds like a 40s Western.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. But I guess that's just like all of Texas is named stupidly like that. Standoff at Eagle Pass, proper part of Operation Lone Star. Like, come on, stop being such a parody of yourselves.
Never.
Oh, I'm sorry. It gets even better. Like I literally am reading like it's line by line in the goddamn Wikipedia article. Standoff at Eagle Pass, part of Operation Lone Star. Location of Eagle Pass, Texas, within Maverick County.
We wonder how these people become this way.
Jesus. So, good fucking God. This is the thing that really scares me. Because all the rest of it, it's pretty isolated.
Yeah.
This is a serious problem.
So, can we
Uh,
start off with the standoff? Like, what is it
yeah, I'm
about?
going to go through this Wikipedia article through because it's relatively short. It's
Okay.
like 3 paragraphs here. And all of it is fairly pertinent. So I'm just going to go through it here so we get like the base level of this all, and add that this is very much an unfolding event. And a lot of it happened on Friday, and we're now in the weekend where not a lot is happening because I guess, sedition and or seceding from the union doesn't work on weekends.
I was actually about to say, I feel like this is just a whole bunch of people trying to like take their attention away from their shitty jobs.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that. But from this is the Wikipedia article for Standoff at Eagle Pass. On January 11th, 2024, the Texas National Guard took control over Shelby Park, a 47-acre area of parkland in the town of Eagle Pass, along the Rio Grande River that separates the United States from Mexico after Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed an emergency declaration to close the park. In his declaration, Abbott cited the Mexico United States border crisis and the need to secure the border. The Texas National Guard blocked U.S. Border Patrol agents from patrolling the area, which the Border Patrol had been using to hold migrants in recent weeks. Following the closure, 3 migrants were found drowned in the Rio Grande. They were subsequently identified by Mexican authorities as a 33-year-old woman and her 2 children aged 10 and 8. The U.S. Border Patrol said that they had alerted the Texas National Guard that a group of migrants were in distress in the waters outside the boat ramp in Shelby Park, but that the National Guard did not take action to rescue the migrants. Texas lawyers responded that the National Guard was only alerted after the 3 had drowned and that the National Guard had not spotted any migrants. Mexican authorities said that the boat never entered U.S. territory. On January 22nd, the Supreme Court of the United States issued an order to vacate an injunction by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that prevented Border Patrol agents from cutting concertina wire, otherwise known as barbed wire, which the National Guard had been using to make a fence in Shelby Park. The ruling concerned an earlier dispute and did not address Texas deploying razor wire or blocking federal officials from the park. So basically, the Supreme Court ruled to overturn a prior appeals court ruling to allow Border Patrol agents inside the park to remove that barbed wire. On January 2024, Abbott responded by stating that Texas would refuse to let federal authorities access to the park, vowing to, quote, protect the sovereignty of our state. A military standoff between state and federal authorities over immigration is unique in modern American history, with constitutional law professor Charles Rhodes and an editorial in the San Antonio Express-News saying it may signal the start of a constitutional crisis. In the aftermath of the Supreme Court's decision, 25 other Republican state governors, all of them with the exception of Vermont Governor Phil Scott, announced their support for the Texas government in dispute, as did U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, failed Republican presidential candidate, additionally committed to sending more resources after previously sending the Florida National Guards to reinforce the Texas government. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt pledged to deploy the Oklahoma National Guard to support Texas. Other state and national Republican officials have also backed Texas. On January 23rd, the Department of Homeland Security issued an ultimatum to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, ordering the removal of obstructions along the border and to grant Border Patrol full access to Shelby Park by January 26th. On January 24th, Democratic Texas Representatives Joaquin Castro and Greg Casar called for U.S. President Joe Biden to establish federal control over the Texas National Guard. Okay.
That's a
That
lot.
is a lot, and what is happening. And I want to, if we can, break this down into kind of like 2 parts as to how this is a constitutional crisis, and then what is the response to this? Because what has happened is relatively like small and not that consequential. The Border Patrol, per federal dictate, is a federal body, and the federal government has access to everything within its borders,
Yes.
pretty bluntly.
Yeah.
There's not ambiguity there. Texas is stopping federal government agents from accessing part of the federal border. So, constitutional crisis, because this is bad, right? Texas is ignoring a Supreme Court decision trying to claim some sort of supreme law of the land. That was, I believe, exactly what Governor Abbott said in his statement. Under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. That alone is a problem and is fundamentally wrong. That cannot exist in a federal system
I agree.
at a conceptual level.
Hmm.
That does not make sense. Beyond that, ignoring a direct decision from the Supreme Court is its own problem and also calls into question the constitutionality of those acts. And fundamentally, this is a constitutional crisis because we have a state under the US Constitution that is electing to ignore the inherent binding that that Constitution represents. Texas is, without ambiguity, a part of the United States. And it does
No.
not have, there is no mechanism short of literal revolution that can undo that. The idea of a peaceful, or as I've heard it, a soft secession does not exist as a legal framework within the United States of America.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Turns out, would you look at fucking Brexit, letting people just randomly leave your, economic body is bad for everyone.
Hmm. I don't know, man. Brexit was pretty cool for the British.
All of the British on the sidelines. We disagree.
Dude, they reclaimed their national identity.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to get into it. Brexit is like a whole ass problem for another day, you know?
I mean, yeah, I just like making fun of it because it was the dumbest thing they could have
God,
done.
it has been, uh, if there weren't so many people being disproportionately fucked over by it, it would be really funny by how badly Britain has fucked themselves over by that.
Way to make me feel like an asshole. No, I
But
agree. Yeah, go on.
the big question is, how does the federal government, specifically the Biden administration, respond? Because you now have three states' National Guards posturing to block the federal government from accessing land that they have jurisdiction over. And the ultimate problem is that if the federal government, I think this is best compared to a sort of a tantrum, right? This
I
is
like where you're
Texas
going. Yeah.
flailing and making a whole bunch of noise over fucking nothing. And if you let that tantrum happen without response, it's going to happen again. And it's going to happen over things of greater consequences. And it builds the idea that if you make enough noise and enough fuss, that you can do whatever you want. And that is not okay. It is not true. But on the other hand, if your child starts screaming and you smack the shit out of them, that is disproportionately bad in the other direction, where, you know, you're not teaching your child to, do the right thing in that situation. You're just teaching them that when they do a thing, they get hurt.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, the federal government has not issued any specific statements in the wake of this yet. A lot of this happened on Thursday and Friday of this week. The Supreme Court ruling only happened on Thursday, and I believe there has been some like general-ish statements to the effect. Let me double check in case I've missed something. But yeah, they basically just reiterated at this point that this is what the Supreme Court ruled. Stop fucking around.
It's so amazing that they think they can like pick and choose Supreme Court rulings that they like to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like last time I heard, they were pretty jazzed up when the Supreme Court overturned
Oh,
Roe v. Wade.
Well, it's because they're all massive hypocrites.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have no moral foundation that they stand on other than doing what is beneficial to them. So, the obvious two extreme responses, right? The federal government does nothing, bad. Doesn't curb the, obviously unconstitutional behavior that is occurring, the behavior that is, in clear opposition to the ideological idea of having a federated government.
Mm-hmm.
Other side, Biden goes full Dark Brandon and rolls in, the U.S. Army with tanks. Also, obviously bad and does not reach a desired outcome. And neither of those things is going to happen here, of course. We have seen from Biden that he and his administration uh, are more than capable of navigating some extremely politically difficult circumstances like this. So either of those extreme outcomes seems incredibly unlikely, but it's going to be a very fine line in between as to where it comes down from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the federal response is if the federal response is to not put more federal agents within Texas's borders at all, there could be an argument for weakness there, right? Where the lack of a federal presence is, part of the problem that's resulted in these, tantrums, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, if you go, the opposite direction, you just start cutting off federal funding to Texas, that also doesn't exactly have the desired outcome. One of the most interesting ideas that I've seen that who knows how it would work, but uh, shock to learn, Texas has a lot of federal military bases in it. And the economic impact that could be had simply by relocating substantial numbers of those federal troops to just outside of Texas could be uh, significant. But that also falls into the undesirable outcome of reducing the, federal presence in Texas. I don't know. There are no good answers. And this is a circumstance that seems pretty uh, intentionally designed to provoke a response from the federal government that will make unfavorable headlines in the news for them.
I got a response.
Oh, yeah?
Take away 5 of their electoral votes. This is
Yeah.
why I should not be president.
And see, that's the thing, though, right? Like, say you do just let Texas go away.
Yeah.
You can't, because then it fundamentally weakens the, like the literal fabric of the union. But if you do, Texas is going to struggle like hell. And that's a huge number of Republican votes that all of a sudden aren't getting put into the federal government.
Yeah.
I think
Honestly,
for those sorts of reasons,
yeah.
the actual act of Texas seceding is basically uh it's not even worth discussing. It at this point is not going to happen because Texas stands to lose so much from it, both economically and politically.
I think so often, like, people throw out this idea of succeeding out of the union for like any state when they're pissed, but like it's not really possible for any U.S. state to go off on its own. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By, it's literally paramount to the idea of our union, right?
Yeah.
They can't. The states are a portion of the whole that is the United States. And without the United States, the individual states are nothing. They do not exist.
Mm-hmm. Even then, there's stuff like the fact we started off as territories. Even like when the British were like all over the fucking U.S. Well, the America, they
Mm-hmm.
were still our supplier and our unionizer almost. I'm kind of curious if like there is any like geographic area in the US that could realistically run on its own pretty well.
Yeah, probably like California.
California is the only one I can think of.
And that's just because, they have so much economic sway already.
Well, they're one of the biggest states. They're
Yeah.
right on the ocean, so that's great for trade.
Yep.
They've got really good fucking like the only thing California really has against itself geographically
Hmm.
is that fault line.
Yep.
Like as soon as there's a disaster, they're fucked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Would be very funny if Texas did manage to like try and secede or something to have the federal government coordinate with like Cuba and Mexico to set up a blockade of the Gulf of Mexico.
That'd be hilarious, dude. They would do it too.
You'd have to do something.
Yeah.
Realistically, it wouldn't come to that. Let me double check here. Oh, sorry.
The whole
Uh,
time we've been on this little skit, I've been checking the news, like refreshing constantly, just waiting for the seceding story to drop.
do you want to take a guess? How many members are in the Texas National Guard?
Well, I'm not in it and you're not in it, so we're gonna say under 10,000.
No, a little bit more than that.
Okay, 11,000.
19.
Not bad. Not bad.
So
Yeah.
Texas has 19. Florida has approximately 12,000, sorry. So we're up to 31 total. And we've had Oklahoma, Oklahoma, pledge a portion of their National Guard. They claim about 10,000 as well. So 41,000. Do you want to take a guess how much are just in the U.S. Army? Just active duty,
I'm saying
not
more
including
than the
reserves.
population of South Dakota.
Where population of South Dakota? Uh, South Dakota population. It's closer than you'd think.
No.
The United States Army has a current active duty personnel count of 452,689. In addition, there are 325,000 Army National Guardsmen, 176,000 Army Reserve personnel, for a total of 1,073,000 total uniformed personnel just within the United States Army. South Dakota has a population of 895,000. So if you take out that 176,000 Army Reserve personnel, the Army comes shy by less than 50,000, less than the combined populations of all of the Texas, Florida, and Oklahoma National Guards.
And this is the military industrial complex they were all
Yep.
advocating for.
Yep. Never mind the Air Force, the Marines,
The Navy. Oh, God, the
Navy,
Navy.
the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard does not fuck around. Yeah. It would be, I believe the term, could it come to it, a bloodbath.
That implies that there's like anybody to bathe with. It would be more like just
Yeah.
showing up and saying, "Put the gun down, bud."
The Alamo is not built to stand Predator missiles.
That's the thing too. Like, how does Texas fight back against a drone?
No, there is really no ultimate way that this works for Texas. It is purely designed as a political endeavor to make the Biden administration look bad, regardless of the response that they make, while they cross their fingers that the actual response isn't anything that's long-term damaging for them. Yeah.
sad too, because I think there's actually a lot of lovely people in Texas, and they're just in the crosshairs of
Oh
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's pull up the 2020 presidential election map. Now let's take a peek over at Texas. 5.2 million of the approximately 11 million people who voted in Texas voted for Biden.
Yeah.
So, like, right off the top, that's 5.2 million that uh, are factoring into that side of the things. And then when you look into, the number of people that did vote for Trump, you can easily understand how people who are good people who are not politically or economically or literally literate get swayed by misinformation and outright lies that get told in the political sphere. Yeah, nobody wins.
What are you talking about? We win. We have a story to talk about for the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Schmoes
The
keep on
schmoes are
winning.
the real winners. So, we have some other stuff that we could talk about,
Uh-oh.
but I don't want to because we've talked about enough shit like that. So let's talk about movies.
Uh, yeah, absolutely.
I
Before
don't think
we
there's
do,
like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
brief pause.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Ninja came in through my window. Had to beat up the ninja. It was bloody, but
Mm,
unfortunately for him, I know anti-ninja karate. So movies, what's out?
movies,
What's here?
basically nothing.
It's January, dude. What did you expect?
Yep. But I did want to bring up a couple because they seem funny.
Okay.
And there's a beekeeper-sized hole that I do think we need to talk about because
Oh
there's
no.
literally nothing else.
Okay.
But there is what I assume is a Chinese language, a Korean action film called Alienoid Return to the Future.
I don't know
That's it.
about you, but that's literally everything I ask for a movie. It's just like the dumbest name possible.
After locating the divine blade, a shaman and a modern day woman race through time to battle a powerful alien commander intent on destroying mankind in Alienoid Return to the Future. Part two of Choi Dong Hoon's epic Sorry, this is part two. My mistake. I didn't realize, and that's my fault.
Really, it is. We're supposed to be like a journalism show, Cairo. We're supposed to know things ahead of time.
Yeah. There's also a Chinese animated film that is just called The Storm that has basically nothing known about it. There are no critic reviews, there are no audience reviews, there are no cast or crew listed other than director, who is also the screenwriter, and there is basically no information about it. But it has a neat poster, so I figured I'd mention it.
Can I see the poster?
Yeah, let me send it over to you. It's like, dang, if the movie looks like this, that'd be kind of cool. But, who knows? Because there's literally nothing else other than the poster. Not even like a trailer, which is kind of funny because normally they're pretty good about that.
Hey, that
But,
would be kind of
it's a
cool.
cool poster. It's got good color.
Yeah.
Um, we also had ISS released this weekend, and I believe as a state of where film is currently, being the winter, the fact that it has 134 reviews is a pretty good indictment of just where everything is right now, where people are kind of bored. It's sitting at a 63% for critics, 43% from audience. Tensions flare in the near future aboard the International Space Station as a worldwide conflict breaks out on Earth. Reeling from this, the astronauts receive orders from the ground: take control of the station by any means necessary.
It's when
And
movies use the phrase by any means necessary that I get
yeah,
worried.
yeah, yeah. So I have not heard of this. I do not recognize anybody who's taking part in it, but it's got lots of reviews, so I think people are, a little bit they're wanting for something else. Oh,
Aren't
this
we
is
all,
pretty good
though?
though. Rafer Guzman of Newsday raves, "In space, no one can hear you yawn."
That's pretty good.
And then about 4 other people have equally derivative negative reviews that have that tagline. So yeah, I want to talk about the Beekeeper though, because we talked about the reception of it 2 weeks ago,
Yep.
but we have like the full plot now. And did you know it's basically about crypto scammers?
Are you serious?
Yeah. The
That's
whole thing that
funny.
starts it off is that the beekeeper guy's neighbor gets caught in a phishing scam and robbed of like $2 million that was supposed to be for their charity, so they commit suicide. That's the inciting incident. It's like John Wick, but instead of the bad guys killing John Wick's dog, they stole from his neighbor, and the neighbor was so distraught over it that they killed themselves. And then that's what John Wick went after him for.
That's really weird.
Yep. And I don't know if this is just part of how like this synopsis on Wikipedia has been written up, but parts of it are phrased very strangely. Um, find the one bit here. Yeah. Danforth goes to talk to Wallace Westfield about Clay. Jason Statham. Wallace, the former head of the CIA, is currently running security for Danforth Enterprises at the request of Derek's mother, Jessica.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's always when they like
Apparently, Jason Statham also has a thing for cutting people's fingers off.
really.
Yeah.
Huh.
You want me to just go through the plot?
Please. Like what's the
All
point? Like I don't think
right.
anybody is going to watch it.
The Beekeeper, 2024. Eloise Parker is a retired school teacher who lives by herself in the Massachusetts countryside, but she has a tenant in her barn, a man named Adam Clay, who leads a quiet life as a beekeeper. One day, Eloise falls for a phishing scam and is robbed of over $2 million, the majority of which belongs to a charity organization she manages. Devastated, she takes her own life. After Clay finds her body, he is immediately arrested by FBI agent Verona Parker, Eloise's daughter. After Eloise's death is ruled a suicide, Clay is released. Verona tells Clay that the group that robbed Eloise has been on the FBI's radar for a while, but is difficult to track, and she is pessimistic that they will ever be brought to justice even if they are found. Wanting justice for Eloise, Clay contacts the Beekeepers, a mysterious organization, to find the scammers responsible. Clay receives an address for the scammers, a call center known as UGD, run by Mickey Garnett. Clay goes into the UGD building and, after scaring off the employees and taking down a handful of Garnett's men, blows up the building. Garnett informs his boss, technology executive Derek Danforth. Danforth sends Garnett to kill Clay. Garnett and his thugs find Clay and follow him to his barn. There, Clay quickly kills them all except for Garnett, whose fingers he cuts off before releasing him. Garnett calls Danforth while stopped at a bridge, informing him that Clay is a beekeeper. Clay, having found Garnett, kills him while Danforth listens over the phone, and then warns Danforth that he is coming after him. Danforth threatens Clay over the phone to kill him. Danforth goes to Wallace Westfield about Clay. Wallace, this is how the whole thing is like. It's like person goes to person, person is person, person knows person, 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 person.
Person.
Wallace, the former head of the CIA, is currently running security for Danforth Enterprises at the request of Derek Danforth's mother, Jessica. Concerned, Wallace contacts the current director of the CIA in hopes of stopping Clay. The director contacts the beekeepers and learns that Clay has retired from the organization. However, a beekeeper is sent to kill Clay. Clay burns the agent to death and cuts off her finger, causing a gas station to explode in the process. The beekeepers inform the CIA that they will remain neutral and not pursue Clay. Meanwhile, Verona and her partner Matt have been following the crime scenes. They determine that Clay's next target is the 9 Point Center in Boston, which manages Derek's scamming call centers throughout the world, including UDG. After informing Deputy Director Prigg that Clay is a beekeeper, they receive full funding. Great. Wallace coordinates a group of ex-Special Forces personnel, revealing to them that the Beekeepers are a highly skilled and dangerous clandestine organization tasked with protecting the United States, operating above and beyond governmental jurisdiction. To have a chance at stopping Clay, Wallace orders the group to secure the inside of the 9 Points building while the FBI places their own SWAT team around the perimeter. Despite the Special Forces leader's insistence that the employees should be removed from the building first, Danforth lets them keep working. This allows Clay to quickly defeat the FBI SWAT team and infiltrate the building, taking down the manager, who reveals to Clay and the FBI that Derek Danforth is his boss. Verona informs FBI Director Prigg that Derek Danforth actually runs both companies. Both are owned by Danforth Enterprises, which is used by several US government agencies. Verona also brings up the point that not only will Clay attempt to kill Derek, but he may also kill Jessica, who is the President of the United States. Verona explains that a beekeeper can decide to take down and replace the queen bee where she has failed to produce decent offspring. Prigg gives them a blank check and proceeds to inform the president. Wallace, upset that Clay has escaped again, suggests that Derek Danforth stay with his mother for the time being, taking advantage of Secret Service protection. While at the president's beachside mansion, Wallace hires a group of mercenaries, one of whom previously had an encounter with a beekeeper and lost his leg. Near the entrance to the president's mansion, Clay climbs aboard the underside of a truck, switching places with a Secret Service agent to blend in at a party being held there. Because, of course, when you're being threatened by what is allegedly one of the most dangerous people in the world, you throw a party.
This sounds like
Uh,
shit.
Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Prigg tells Jessica about her son's scam operation. Derek reveals that during her presidential campaign, Jessica was behind in the polls and needed funding. He used a CIA program to locate financial targets and scam them out of their money. Jessica decides that if and when Clay approaches, she will tell him and the world the truth about Derek's use of the program. In this way, she hopes he will grant mercy to her and her son. Enraged, Derek kills Prigg and takes his mother hostage. Clay fights his way to the president's office. Wallace talks to Clay to try and persuade him to turn away at the last moment, but fails. Clay eventually reaches her office, being quickly joined by Verona and the rest of the FBI agents. Verona tries to dissuade Clay from killing Jessica and Derek. Derek attempts to kill his mother, but Clay kills him first. Clay then smashes through a nearby window and onto the beach. Despite Veronica having a clear shot, she decides not to shoot Clay. He flees with the aid of the scuba gear he had hidden on the beach. End film.
So it's John Wook, but bad.
Yes. Yeah, it's really kind of fascinating because this is like exactly what you would expect out of one of these schlocky action movies from like 20 or 30 years ago. But now that we have John Wick and we have empirically proven that you can have both schlock and a good action movie, it makes this seem incredibly antiquated.
Like, it doesn't even sound like a story as much as like hanging out with your
Mm-hmm.
little cousin and he's got his action figures out and he's just going
Mm-hmm.
bam, bam, bam.
Right. And I'm sure there's some, there is a degree of entertainment to be had in that. But
Yeah.
it is like morbidly fascinating just how fractured everything is. But, Jason Statham, he's the beekeeper, even though he's
Honestly,
not.
this feels like the kind of movie that needs a Bruce Willis in it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Jason Statham's been doing as well. He is the Bruce Willis. He's the British Bruce Willis.
There we go. That's a better way of
Yeah.
putting it.
It does also have Jeremy Irons, so, they've got their all-star cast rounding up here.
Who wrote this?
David Ayer.
Have you ever done
Sorry, he directed. Uh, Directed by David Ayer of Suicide Squad and Fury. Written by Kurt Wimmer, who oh wow, notable for also having written Total Recall 2012 and Expend4bles.
I
Oh,
like
he
how
did.
this first dude, the first movie this dude ever did
Yeah,
was One Tough Bastard.
yeah. I will say, Equilibrium 2002 is wildly entertaining in how dumb it is. I have this on DVD. It's a Christian Bale film, and the long short of it is that this is like a post-apocalyptic world that has uh, priests that are gun ninjas, and emotions have been made illegal. And the priest gun ninjas hunt down and kill anybody who is trying to have emotions or is secretly holding art or literature or things that could evoke emotions, and they do it through a special form of martial arts called gun kata.
Is that seriously where gun kata comes from?
Yes.
I've heard of gun kata.
It is exceptionally dumb and kind of hilarious because of it. It's, to me at least, having seen it twice now, does not feel like it is laughing along, if you know what I mean.
You're telling me they took this shit seriously?
At times, it feels like that. It has Sean Bean
No.
in it too.
No.
It's kind of a beautiful thing. I highly rate it because, it's just so dumb and kind of funny. Uh, but there's actually quite a few things in here that are like kind of fascinating to see. Salt 2010, Angelina Jolie is not exceptional, but totally serviceable as far as like a born derivative action film can be.
Mm-hmm.
Total Recall 2012 is not good.
No.
If you want to watch Total Recall, you should just watch the original one. I've heard very bad things about Total Recall 2012. Point Break, I didn't even know they did a Point Break remake. I have to imagine that if you want to see Point Break, you should still just watch the original one.
No action movie needs to be remade.
Reception. Why doesn't it have critical reception of Point Break 2015? On review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 11%.
That's still too much.
I think that's bordering on like lizard people scores, where it's like regardless of what question you put in front of somebody, if you say ask people is the president a lizard, a certain number of people will not read the question and say yes regardless, right? I think once you get into like single digit percents on Rotten Tomato, you're getting into that sort of category where people will just not pay attention to what they're doing and either don't understand how rating systems work or don't understand like what they're giving a rating for, right?
Yeah,
I think it's fair to call that a zero.
that's a good point.
I'm curious though, because we can look up Kurt Wimmer on Rotten Tomatoes and do a quick scan of like all of his movies. Oh man,
Uh oh.
that's pretty remarkable. Um, Equilibrium had box office earnings. Equilibrium, right?
Yeah.
So this is 2002. It has Christian Bale. Let me pull this up real quick. Oh, I hit the wrong button. That's why it doesn't look right. Christian Bale and Sean Bean in 2002. Christian Bale at the time, prior to this, had already done not a ton, but like he's not an unknown figure at this point, right? He'd been working pretty consistently since the early 90s, and literally the next thing that he did after this was The Machinist and then Howl's Moving Castle. So like
That's a
he's not
jump.
unknown.
Yeah.
And for Sean Bean, like it's Sean fucking Bean. I'm not going to go into it. He was in goddamn Tom Clancy movies. It got $1.2 million at the box office. Oof. That's what I give that. Yeah. Total Recall 31%. Point Break 11%. Salt 62, which is fair enough. It's a totally fine movie. Expendables, that I am always going to give shit because of how dumb the name is, got a whopping 14.
Nice.
So yeah.
You mean 114? Oh, don't laugh at that. That was a bad joke.
So yeah. I'm curious. Is there anything coming soon of note? I don't really think so. Do a quick scan. Oh, Turning Red is getting its theatrical debut. So I guess that's neat. All
I mean,
right.
it's a movie that deserves to be seen in theaters because it's
Yeah,
pretty.
I've heard lots of good stuff about it.
It's good. It's really, really good.
No.
It's like
Um,
it
yeah.
doesn't go up there with the higher Pixar films, but it definitely deserves a spot there.
Releasing on Valentine's Day, Madam Web.
Did you? What's her name? Um, who is the lady that's playing Madam Web?
Dakota Johnson.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I think she gave a review, like an interview, like where someone caught her breaking like the
Mm.
thing. Um, Essentially, she said something about like the whole film being filmed in front of a blue screen and how
Yep.
she had no faith in it because okay, yeah, absolutely psychopath to film Madam Web in front of an entire blue screen. I don't know if this is going to be good at all.
Well, it's 2 hours long, so we'll find out.
Did you hear about like the Spider-Man cameo that they tried putting in this movie?
I am not no, but I'm not surprised. I can't see how it will be good.
So apparently, the idea was going to be to have Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man in it. However,
Okay.
yeah, the idea was going to be that this was like a spin-off of the Amazing Spider-Man universe. However, it was considered probably a bad move since they were still working on
No.
Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland. So then they tried getting Tom Holland to play Spider-Man in that. Tom Holland said no.
You don't say.
And then they're like, okay, maybe putting Spider-Man in here would be a little too confusing.
You don't say.
And then they had to
I
rewrite the movie to not have Spider-Man in it.
I have such little faith in this movie.
The only Sony Spider-Man, I only have two movies in the Sony Spider-Man movie universe I'm excited for, right?
Hmm.
One, Venom 3,
Okay.
only because the Venom movies have proven they are schlock, but they are
Hmm.
delicious schlock. And Craven the Hunter, because
Mm.
I believe that too will also be very delicious schlock.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything else can go to
Oh
hell.
my God. They're making another Ghostbusters movie.
Yes, they are. I've seen trailers
I
for it.
did not know this.
How did you not know this? Like the
I
trailers have
well,
been all over.
I know that they did the first one with Paul Rudd. I didn't know they're doing a second one with Paul Rudd.
I don't know why Paul Rudd keeps coming back.
I mean, the first of the series didn't do too horribly, did it?
I don't know. Like the
Let me
Ghostbusters
check.
timeline's so confusing.
Ghostbusters Afterlife. Yeah, financially it's fine. Not exceptional, but it's fine. Critically, it's in the 60s. So people seem to like it. But yeah. We got like Dune, and that's kind
Dune.
of it for like months, other than like, Ghostbusters tier stuff.
Does
If you want to
Ghostbusters
see Les
deserve a
Mis, you
franchise?
can see it in theaters again.
Eh.
No, no, no takers.
No, thank you.
There's gonna be some stinkers I think we'll be able to talk about. Just skimming some of the titles. There's some doozies. So we'll have some stuff to go through. It's just, gotta wait a bit before we get to the heavy hitters again. But that's just how it is this time of year.
I have to remind myself what movies are coming out this year.
Yeah.
Oh, Knives Out 3 starts filming soon.
Yeah, they still haven't put the second one on a fucking disc yet.
I'm sorry.
I swear to God. I am so I was talking to my mom about this last night because we were talking about, like movies that we want to go and see
Yeah.
and how many of them are on just streaming services right now. Like, particularly the Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers
Yeah.
came out. I completely missed it. Didn't realize it. And because I didn't see it for like the 2 days it was in theaters, can't watch it now. You gotta get it on a streaming service or, hope that eventually it comes out on DVD, but that's just not a guarantee anymore.
So, fun fact, I know you've like your white whale at the moment is that Glass Onion like DVD.
Yes. Yeah.
I was at Walmart a few weeks ago, and Walmart's doing this weird thing where they're like doing like collabs with Netflix,
Hmm.
but they're not like actually giving the movies out. They're
Yeah.
instead like branded popcorn containers and like snacks. And I saw one for Glass Onion, and I freaked out because I was gonna buy it for you, and then like
Mm.
drop it on you without you realizing it.
Hmm.
No, no, it was just it really tries to look like it's the fucking DVD, but it was just nothing. It was a nothing sandwich. It was a disappointment, in fact, because it was just like
Hmm.
glass onion, onion powder shit. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
It was
Kind of
kind
thing where like I am very much, I am in a financial position where I shouldn't have to consider like at all like the idea of having to pirate something
yeah,
just to watch it. Like I want to give you money, Netflix. I want to give you money to watch your thing, and that's not good enough.
no, because they don't want to
It's
meet you
just
anywhere
so
outside their
frustrating.
normal business model.
Yeah.
I'm also like looking through the 2024 movies, and this is kind of going to be a mid-year, isn't it?
A bit. Um, Let me pull it, but there's a couple that I was looking forward to. The big one for me is Dune Part 2. Just, obviously, I think the first Dune is kind of a fascinating thing to consider in the current film landscape, and I just want to see it through to the end.
Fair.
I also find it very funny that they had to delay it because of the strikes. Like, all of the executives involved in it, go fuck yourself. And huge credit to the actors for holding straight tight on that. It's good for them. Otherwise, what else do we have?
IMDb has a list, but I don't believe it's an official list by any
Yeah,
stretch.
I'm skimming the Rotten Tomatoes list right now. Apparently, we're getting a new Planet of the Apes film.
Eh,
Those have all, I not really for me, but at like a technical level, have been kind of impressive. I have huge respect for oh fuck, I can't remember his name. Andy Serkis.
mm,
Exceptional actor. He did, the Gollum mocap. He did a ton of the mocap for Planet of the Apes. Um, and just as a professional, he is incredibly enviable.
yeah, I really loved his work in Venom too.
Yeah. Furiosa, the Mad Max prequel, I guess it would be kind of. I'm kind of like morbidly curious to see how that turns out. I hope it's good, but um, we're gonna have to wait and see. It is, a bit derivative to say the least. But that whole Mad Max universe with Fury Road was an excellent way to update the IP for a more cohesive vision to actually do some stuff with it.
Hmm.
And I think this is going to be a good litmus test to see if they continue to do that. That sort of post apocalyptic world is something that we don't really see presented in that same way anymore, particularly in a post COVID world. And it's kind of refreshing in a way to just get like, yeah, everything is desolate and dead. COVID and The Last of Us on HBO have kind of just ruined any other post apocalyptic film's chance of ever being original again.
Yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm. God, Despicable Me 4, of course there is.
Speaking of dystopian apocalypses,
Oof. Do you want to keep going through the upcoming releases?
absolutely, because like I'm not finding anything on IMDb that's worth
Uh,
salt. Yeah.
oh, well, most of what I'm finding is not worth a shit either, but it is very funny to point and laugh at. They're making a sequel to Twister, the tornado movie.
I'm the infamous Ryan. I've been a schmo. I will stop at the idea of Twister getting a
Do you want to guess what it's called?
typhoon.
Twisters. it's, it's so dumb.
I'm going to try choking on my spit right now to kill myself. This is stupid. A Twister movie,
Yeah.
a sequel called Twisters
Yeah.
with an S. Do you think they're going to stylize the S so it looks like a 2?
I hope so. Uh, okay, something that I am actually looking forward to though. Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman.
I'm on the fence, but I have trust.
I have an immense amount of faith in Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman to not fuck it up.
It really
And
does feel like
I
it's
hope they
just the
don't let me
two of
down.
them on set goofing around.
I hope it is.
Yeah.
Just have it be the two of them, like put together 2 or 3 sets and just like film them on it, and it will be perfect. Apparently, they're making a Borderland movie based on the video game.
I will wait to see
Um,
that.
yep, there is an untitled Alien movie that is scheduled for 2024 and believed to be coming out in August. Very little is known about it yet. Doesn't even have a title. Craven the Hunter, of course. Transformers 1, an animated prequel. Weird. Okay, there's actually quite a bit coming out later in the year. Apparently, the Joker sequel with Joaquin Phoenix is slated for an October release.
I'm excited about that
Joker
one.
Folie à Deux.
Yeah.
Yeah. Venom 3, Gladiator 2, Ridley Scott, please. You're better than that. I know people didn't like your Napoleon movie, but you don't have to make Gladiator 2 to sulk about it. Oh no. Um, they're making the Karate Kid movie.
You know, I'm actually excited about that.
Is it like a remake
No,
or is it a new thing?
it's a sequel almost. So
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm seeing now. They don't know yet,
yeah, they
but it
kind
seems
of
like it's its own thing.
they confirmed is Ralph Macchio is in it, and so is Jackie Chan.
Yeah, so that's pretty hype.
Yeah.
Apparently Warner Brothers has announced the Lord of the Rings film.
Okay.
An animated prequel follows the exploits of Helm Hammerhand and the legendary King of Rohan, home of the horseman known as the Rohirrim, set 183 years before the events of the Two Towers. What?
Why do they have to make like sequel and prequels to like a world that had a pre-established canon?
Because nothing is original anymore. I'm curious. Let's just take a skim of this whole fucking list, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, um, how many completely original IPs are going to be on it? Okay,
None.
no sequels, no prequels, no remakes, not even based on a book. Actually original. All
Yeah.
right. So we have Argyle, fucking Argyle. Uh, Imaginary, a Blumhouse horror. Arthur the King, starring Mark Wahlberg. Civil War, which we saw a poster for, and we'll have to see what the hell's going on about it. Apparently, it features Nick Offerman as the president. Um, nope, that's a sequel. We have Ryan Gosling in The Fall Guy. Yeah. Ryan Reynolds, who's apparently in 2 films this year. He does The Man Ever Fucking Sleep in If, which looks like a bit of a head ripoff. Uh, God, this is a wild spat. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, the Garfield movie, Bad Boys 4, Inside Out 2, A Quiet Place Day 1, Despicable Me 4, Disasters, Deadpool 3, Borderlands, Untitled Alien movie. Yeah. So I'm counting like 7 or 8 of the entire next year. And this is like 40-ish films, I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty big. And there's another series that is TBD expected 2024, including Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, and a couple others that are not particularly notable. But Spider-Verse was originally slated for March 29th, but is TBD now, delayed due to the strikes. So yeah, that's what I have to look forward to in 2024.
Lame.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of ones that are okay, but yeah, on the whole, I agree. It's gonna be a dry one.
Just makes sense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there'll be stuff announced throughout the year, but like,
Probably.
yeah. Anything else for the
No,
show
no,
today, Mr.
no
Cairo?
hype for Kung Fu Panda 4.
No.
I don't blame you. No, I think that's all.
Oh well then. I'm just Miss Orion, and I'm eagerly awaiting all of our sequels, reboots, and remakes.
And I'm Cairo, and I am no longer fielding inquiries regarding other channels' podcasts.
Oh, maybe we'll get the Power World movie this year.
Oh God.